Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Saturday Show. I'm just testing to see can I hear. I'm still checking in, everybody. So pardon me. Let me see if I can hear on here. I'm still checking. Okay, so we're good to go on the YouTube. So now, sorry I have did this so late, but sorry about this, guys. Just gotta. So, welcome to another episode of the Saturday Show. You see the topic. We're going to have a fantastic discussion. Fun, because you know what I always say. We're having a lot of fun out here. Um, so, we're going to get started by paying a couple of bills first. Hit that subscribe button, hit it, smash it, obliterate it, destroy it. We are at 423, which means we are 77 away from 500. We are very close. So all we got to do is get 77 people out there watching to hit that subscribe button. Hitting that subscribe button is free of charge. Make sure you also hit the notification button to know when I go live. I appreciate your support. You can also support me on Patreon. As you can see, I finally got a new light. You can now see the whole me. The light, it wasn't cheap, but I just went ahead, bought it, and just said, oh, well, just take the loss. But your Patreon will help me make up that cost. It only is $2 per month. Um, that helps me to buy lights. Eventually, I would love to get the website back where the show is broadcasting on the website, but those are goals that are later. But support me on Patreon. Final announcement. Of course, I am asking you to contribute to the First Baptist Church North Drama Camp that I am heading up. It starts June the 13th. No, I'm sorry, it starts June the 20th. I cannot believe June is here. It's like the week after next rehearsals start, and we're trying to raise $3,500 so that we can have an impactful drama camp. So your support is appreciated. And I see we already got somebody checking in. Easy question. The 80s case closed? Absolutely not. So you see the title. Which decade had the best television shows? Now, here's where it's going to get kind of tricky because I was like, well, do we want to just talk about live action or do we want to talk about like animated shows? Because if you put animated shows in, the 80s wins hands down, walks away with it, no doubt about it. The 80s would clearly win. But if you take away cartoons, that not so much. So I'm gonna start talking about a decade that I really didn't. They had some good shows, but not really. I mean, they had some. There were some really good standout shows of the decade, but not where I'm just like that show was so impactful. Now, for me, let me this define. Um, Wait a minute. Even if you take away from the cartoons, it's the A. No, it's not. I'm telling you guys are not gonna like my choice. So uh when I talk about impactful shows, I want to give you my definition. So these shows to me, for me to like appreciative. We're talking comedies and dramas. So both uh, comedies and dramas. We're talking about shows that made a social impact as well as in case of comedy, a comedic impact. So it's not just, oh, what's the show good? Because there were some good shows in each of the decades. There were also some very bad shows in each decade. So let's start off probably with my least favorite decade, the 90s. Now, the 90s had some really interesting things going on. So you had shows, um, let me get this. You had really good shows like Frasier. Frasier was an outstanding. Frasier's one of those few shows where the spinoff, because it was a spinoff of Cheers, was way. Frasier was way better than Cheers. Way better, leaps and bounds. You had Frasier, you had Seinfeld, you had Living Single, you had Fresh Prince of Bel Air. There were some really good shows in the 90s. You had The Simpsons came on in the 90s and still has yet to go off the television. Um, Moesha was in the 90s. Um, I'm trying to think of what else was in the 90s. I'm trying to get a list of shows in the 90s. Um, you had Law and Order. I did not like Law and Order. One of my favorite ones, Beverly Hills 90210, was in the 90s. So you had some really good. The Simpsons came from the 80s. I thought it was the 90s. I stand corrected. Um, but you had some really good shows in the 90s that were just really good. Like I said, you had some shows that were just really, really, really good. But you had some really, really bad ones too. So let's just start off um, with um, I'm trying to get to this list and it's not letting me click it. Okay. And I forgot about Blossom, Kenan and Cal. The Animaniacs was in the 90s. Third Rock from the Sun was in the 90s. Uh, you had Twin Peaks, although I didn't really. Twin Peaks was like, it was okay the first season, but when they got to the second one, I'm like, you know what? Stop this. Oz was in the 90s. Um, Jag was in the 90s. Doug was in the 90s. My so-called life was in the 90s. Uh, Rock, which is a very underrated show, was in the 90s. But then, ha 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 ha, the 90s had some shows. Uh, well, I know that show was in the 80s. I said Beverly Hills 90210. I know Saved by the Bell was 80s. That was 89. That was the year I was a freshman in high school. So I already know that one. But again, the 90s had the 90s had some terrible shows. Think about it. They had shows like Step by Step. They had shows like um Jerry Springer, um Seventh Heaven, which I know a lot of people like Seventh Heaven. I did not. Um The Maury Show was on. Wings was a terrible show. I didn't like King of the Hill. The Steve Harvey show, not his talk show, but the comedy show where he played Steve Hightower. Why do I know the name of the character he played? I don't know. Sister Sister, another terrible show. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Lois and Clark. Um, My Two Dads, I think, is 80s. I'm pretty sure My Two Dads is 80s. Almost certain. Oh no! Now wait a minute. We go when we get to no no, because there's this little show called Little House on the Prairie. I'm telling you what, that show was the 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 stuff. Love that show. Um, don't forget that's when UPN came out with Homeboys in Outer Space, The Secret Life of Desmond Pfeiffer, um, the Hanging with Mr. Cooper. Um, I forgot about Will and Grace and the King of Queens. Yeah, King of Queens came on in 1998. The Nanny was came on in 93. NYPD came on in 93. Texas Walker Ranger, I hate to admit it, but I kind of like that show. Um, this is absolutely right. Don't forget to hit that like button. Please hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it. And tell your friends that I'm on now. That'd be appreciative because I need all the views I can get. I'm trying to think of all the other shows. I didn't watch The Sopranos. That came on in 99. Picket Fences, I just couldn't get into. That was 92. Jag, it was okay. It came on in 95. In the House was a terrible show. Now you all are trying to remember what's in the house. So In the House was a sitcom, and it was with LL Cool J, Debbie Allen, Maria Campbell, Jeffrey Wood, Carlton from the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, and Ken Wayans. And the show somehow lasted 5 seasons. I don't even get it. Um, this show was just so terrible. Uh, and somehow lasted 5 seasons. I forgot Kim Wayans was in there. Um, um, again, the Steve Harvey show came on in 96. Okay, I'm gonna put the Parkers. I like the show. I'm just gonna admit it now. The Parkers was a spinoff of Moesha. Moesha, the problem was they brought Ray J in as the son, it was just like, and then Moesha started with her independence vibe and blah 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 blah. It's like the first season was really good, and then it just kind of went down after that. Um, but again, those were some of the shows of the 90s, and I don't um the Tiny Toon Adventures I love. That was a cartoon. Um Darcy Daria was on in 97. Space Ghost Coast to Coast was a neat kind of show. Um House Hunters came on that year. Um Party of Five, it was okay, but it wasn't like, oh, this show is just it's great. That was the show about the parents died in a car crash or helicopter crash, and the oldest brother had to raise his siblings because he was like 20, and so he adopts his siblings, and they go through like the trials and tribulations, blah blah blah. I think Jennifer Love Hewitt was on there. But again, those are some of the shows. Um, Ren and Stampy was on that year. But you know, there were some, like I said, the 90s had some really, really stand out shows. And if I'm ranking it, I gotta put Frasier first. Frasier was probably one of the best shows of the 90s. It was funny, it was well written. I hardly didn't even notice there was never a black person that appeared. I didn't care. Um, it was just way funnier than Cheers. It had like good writing, really dry sense of humor that I like. Um, it was really, and I love the fact that they brought Niles, the brother, but Fraser had never mentioned he had a brother in Cheers. That was that was really good. If I'm gonna rank the second show, I gotta go The Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Um, was it socially impactful? No. They did a couple of episodes, like a very special, but it was just funny. It wasn't meant to be taken seriously. And I think, unlike Martin, that I just think was just performative, I really, really enjoyed, you know, Jazz getting thrown out the house, through like being thrown, like literally thrown out the house. That was funny. Um, I didn't like when they switched to Ain't Bibs. I thought it lost something, but it was still a good show. And how they like the characters evolved over time until they brought Nick in. Why did they bring Nick in? I don't know. But it was still, I would still rank it number two. Number three show of the 90s, I gotta go with Living Single. Living single in the 90s kind of world. I'm glad I got my girls. Keep your head up. That's right. Keep your head up. That's right. Da, 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 da. And I don't know the rest of the words, but I love that show. Uh, right up until TC Carter was written out. Then I was like, because they tried to bring it like that male roommate, and I'm like, well, I mean, it was still good, but it wasn't like the original. So I have Frasier one, Fresh Prince of Bel Air number two, Living Single number three, Seinfeld. As much as Jerry Seinfeld irks my nerves with his pro Zionism rhetoric, the show was still really, really, really funny. And Cosmos Kramer, or what is his real name? Michael Richards, like dropping N bombs in a comedy club. I still gotta rank Seinfeld like right up there. Uh, and then five, number five. Now that because I'm doing fives of each decade, I would say, boy, that's gonna be a hard one because I'm not gonna put Friends. I could not stand Friends. I'm like, this is Living Single. Why are we doing this? Um, oh, and Family Matters also came on in the was Family Matters the 80s. Oh no. Wait a minute. A Different World was on in the 90s. I forgot about A Different World, but I'm not gonna rank it in my top five. Uh Say Rock. I gotta say though, show Rock was I really, really liked that show, and I was really sad to see it go because I'm like, that show was so good. I don't know um why it didn't last, but I'm just like, this show is really good. Trying to think of some cartoons of the 90s. Um, there was, I know there was that I actually saw. Um, this is where I stopped kind of like because I got like the Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, Tiny Toons. That's pretty much all I can think of. Oh, Arthur. And I'm not gonna count SpongeBob SquarePants because I have never watched an episode of that show. So, um, wait a minute. I thought Chip and Dale was sorry, but I thought Chip and Dale. Okay, so I was right. Okay. Well, wait a minute. DuckTales. DuckTales was the 80s. I thought DuckTales was the 90s. I literally thought DuckTales was the 90s. It was the 80s. So the 90s is my least favorite decade of TV. That's when the sitcoms started to regress. And you saw a lot more dramas. And you saw the Jags and the Law and Orders, and you saw more cop shows. It was just that's where you could see the decline coming. Um, so yeah, that so the 90s would be probably my number three decade, or in third place would be the 90s. So that means in second place is the 80s. Now this is gonna be hard because again, if I count cartoons, the 80s would win this contest hands down. The 80s had some bangers. There were some real bangers in the 80s. I mean, shows that made such an impact on me. Um, that like I said, if I put cartoons in it, the 80s would be number one, no doubt. But because I'm adding comedy and I'm adding drama, the 80s comes in at number two. Um, so when we talk about shows of the 80s, apparently DuckTales was in the 80s. I thought DuckTales was in the 90s. So let's look at shows of the 80s, and this is where it's gonna get kind of hard. Because boy, it's a lot of them that I really like. Let me start off by saying I did not like the Cosby Show. I know, but I named some cartoons in the 90s, so now I got to be consistent. Because I did name Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain. So I put those in there. But yeah, I had said no cartoons, but I changed my mind. So when you look at shows of the 80s, this is where it's gonna get real hard because again, I there were a whole bunch of shows here. And there were some they were meh, but they were still like entertaining. Um, let's start talking about well, let's um Saved by the Bell. So Saved by the Bell came on in 1989. And it started off as Good Morning Miss Bliss. Now it's not the number one of my top five shows of the age. It just is not. But terrible acting, terrible writing. The every time somebody kissed, it was just terrible. But I still loved the show. I didn't like the new class. I didn't like the college years. I only liked the original Saved by the Bell with Zach, Slater, Jesse, Kelly, Lisa, and Screech. Those five? Yeah, five or six. Zach, Slater, Kelly, Jesse, Lisa, Screech. Six. Um, no, the acting was terrible. The acting was so bad. Um, Lisa Turtle was everything. Okay, So I got to start off with Saved by the Bell. It came on the year my freshman year in high school. It ended when I was a senior in high school. So I can't. No disrespect of Saved by the Bell will be tolerated. Head of the Class was another one. Now here's where I liked the show, but then when they changed the teachers, like when Howard Hessman got written off, I'm like, it started in 86 and ran until 1991. Robin Givens was on there, Howard Hessman, Dan Schneider, which we don't talk about that PDFer. He um was on there. Um, but it was just a really good show. And if you never watched it, it was a show about super smart students. Um, and they were like super duper smart. And they were in this special class. Wait a minute, it was better than Kids Incorporated. First of all, you will not disrespect Kids Incorporated. There will be no disrespect of Kids Incorporated. Now, Mickey Mouse Club, I don't even care, but you will not disrespect Kids Incorporated. You will not disrespect Kids Incorporated. I love that show. I love the K-pop thing they did, and they would sing the songs, and it'd be them, and you knew it didn't sound like the original. Oh, I love that show. Love, 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 love Kids Incorporated. Another show that I loved of the 80s, Give Me a Break. Until they moved to like New York. Like once did the show move to New York? No, once Rosie O'Donnell joined, I'm like, you know what? No. But I loved Give Me a Break. Of course, the Golden Girls. What can I say that hasn't been said about the Golden Girls? Four senior ladies showing that hey, just because you're a certain age, you can still get your groove on. Loved, 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 loved the Golden Girls. Um, so no disrespect. Um, the Golden Girls will be tolerated. Uh, Another show of the 80s, I love Family Ties. Oh, I love, okay, so here comes confession. I believe that Family Ties was a better show than the Cosby Show. That's just me. I know everybody's gonna be like, "What you doing?" Yes, the Cosby Show had impact. Yes, the Cosby Show that Black people could have excellence, and we could be more than the janitors and the da 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 da. But I loved Family Ties. Um, yeah, I know people gonna say I'm wrong. I know. I'm talking about what show I like better. I love Family Ties. It had the better writing. They addressed social issues. Um, I especially like that episode where Alex's friend died, and they had like Michael Keaton, um Michael J. Fox, and he was like in a therapist appointment, but it was all black and just him. Oh, y'all gotta go watch that episode. That's just like one had me in tears. I'm just sitting here like, oh my gosh, I was a child and I knew that was impactful. So for me, the better show always is good. If I have to pick, no, they had better writing. They clearly had better writing. They had more complexity in their scripts than the Cosby Show. The Cosby Show was just like Rudy does something nice, Sonya the kids does something stupid. Da 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 da. Family Ties had more complexity in its writing, in its depth, in its overall show. It just was to me better. Um, and it wasn't for because I'm not a Reagan conservative, and I've loved the show. Um, until they brought on that little kid Andrew. Now, what they didn't have to do that. They did not have to do that. But if you just asking me, I'm gonna say Family Ties was a better show than the Cosby Show. Um, but in what episodes? Because I'm serious. When I watched the Cosby Show, I never saw them address war. You got to put the specific episodes because I'm like, okay, I don't see them. Maybe I wasn't looking for it because I didn't like the show. I didn't think it was funny. I didn't think it was impactful. How's a black family not go to church? Yeah, I'm that pet. I'm that girl. But I'm like, now I loved a different world. I loved a different world. But college, I'm like, it was just, it was to me, it was worse than men. I'm just like, this show is not funny. But again, if you're just asking me which of the two shows, Family Ties or The Cosby Show, I'm gonna pick Family Ties because I believe that the depth of the script writing, they talked about alcoholism. The parents were hippies. They conflicted with their son that was a conservative. That's about five scripts right there. It was, to me, my opinion. I know. I said that's why I said that's me. 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 Um, another show of the 80s, 227. Loved that show until the white guy in Stony Jackson showed up and then Jack A. Harry left. I'm like, nah, I came with that show. Night Court. Night Court, I absolutely positively loved Night Court. My favorite character was Dan Fielding. Dan was my favorite character. I liked the episode where the family were just bad stuff kept happening in this family, and they were just like, "We're gonna stick together because we love each." I'm like, dang, how many bad things can happen to it? Wasn't like ha ha funny. I mean, they made it ha ha funny. But if you start looking at what that family was experiencing, I'm like, oh my gosh, can this family hit the lottery? Um, Amen was better than 227. Now I will that we can agree on. Amen was another funny show until Selma married the minister. Then it just went down. But Amen was better than 227. That I agree with. My Night Court will never ever say anything bad about Night Court. Growing Pains was another show that I liked. Although, here's the thing. Why did they make jokes about Tracy Gold being fat? She wasn't fat. Like, she literally was like normal size. I'm like, wait a minute. Maybe it's my perception of being big. Um, that I I'm not I'm not understanding why they made so many jokes about her being big. And I'm like, unless I'm missing something. Because she was not big to me. She was just normal size. Um, back then fat was a completely different. Yeah, but even then, even when I was like, what when did Growing Pains come on? Growing Pains came on in what year? What year did Growing Oh shoot, come on. What year? Well, this don't make no sense. Growing Pains came out in 1985. I was like 11, and I'm like, she don't look big to me. Again, my perception, I grew up maybe because I grew up in a family. Um, I played growing pains for the curses. He did go off the rails and he got that girl fired. I'm like, just because she posed in Playboy, okay, you don't like it, then don't pose in Playboy. Like, dude, you don't went too far. Oh yeah, I forgot that part. Um, Another show that I really, really liked, uh, Bosom Buddy. Now, Bosom Buddies was a show with Peter Scalera. His sister is just as loony. Which sister, Chrissy or or Carol? Um, what show did I just say? Oh, Bosom Buddies. So Bosom Buddies only ran 2 seasons, and I feel bad because I really like this show. So anyway, Bosom Buddies was with Tom Hanks and Peter Scalera. And one day they're sleeping in their rooms, and this thing that swings and tears buildings down, not tore down their apartment. So, oh, his real sister Candy, yeah, yeah, forgot about her. I thought you were talking about TV sisters. Anyway, so they were sleeping in their apartment. The building gets torn down, so now they got to find a place to live. So somebody sees an ad in a paper, and the thing is, the apartment building is just for women. So ha ha ha! What do? They dress as women. Oh, that show was so funny, and it only lasted 2 seasons, and I hate that because it was so funny. I'm like, why did you all cancel this show? Another show I love, we going to hit Mama's Family. Loved Mama's Family. Now, if y'all don't know, Mama's Family was a spin-off sketch of the Carol Burnett show. And Vicki Lawrence played Thelma Harper, a 65-year-old widow, and she lived in the house with her son, her daughter-in-law, 2 grandkids that went off and disappeared and never came back, and then followed by her grandson Bubba, and then next door across the street neighbor Iola. Loved Mama's Family. Um, I forgot about this show, The Wonder Years. You talk about a show that, yep, I agree. If The Wonder Years was one of those shows that once you watched it, you just immediately cared about it. You talk about a show, uh, wait a minute. Nah, absolutely not. I will fight you over Wonder Years. It was totally relatable. They talked about racism in a whole lot of episodes. They talked about, I don't know, we must be watching 2 different shows. I loved the Wonder Years. And I like the fact that uh, Winnie and Fred Savage's character, they did not end up together. They actually broke up. That was really good because you know how sometimes they got that will they, won't they? I loved the Wonder Years. Loved it. Um, Another show, uh, in terms of shows, oh, Simon and Simon. Now you got to be pretty old to know what Simon and Simon is. It's about 2 brothers, they're undercover detectives. Loved Simon and Simon. Also like Jake and the Fat Man. That was another good one. Magnum PI, the first one with Tom Selleck, not whatever CBS tried to reboot. I can't with the reboots. Um, like I said, the 80s had some real bangers. 21 Jump Street was in there. The show that I watched instead of the Cosby Show, Who's the Boss? As I stated before, I had a big old huge crush on Tony Danza, so I always loved that. Um, Murphy Brown was in the 80s. And the heat of the night was also in you know what? I'm gonna talk about these two shows. In the heat of the night, loved it until like the black actor was called cross that whole situation. Read about it because I'm not gonna go over it, but keep in mind alternative lifestyles weren't accepted as they are now. But Moonlighting and Murder She Wrote is like epic. Epic, 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 epic. I loved Murder She Wrote. Dun, 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 dun. And Moonlighting, okay, I liked Moonlighting until they got together and they had the baby. And I'm like, you know what? No. So Moonlighting was okay, but Murder She Wrote was fire. Um, Roseanne came on in the 80s. Roseanne, I liked right up until they won the lottery and the reboot because Roseanne somehow became a Trump supporter and went all racist. Airwolf and A Team. Airwolf didn't like A Team, absolutely loved until they got caught by the government. Um, and Boy George appearing on the A Team, that's the most terrible episode. Knight Rider was okay. Like it was poorly acted, but I still liked it. Um, Gotta talk about Dallas. Dallas, I had a Friday night lineup when we were kids. So when we were kids, there were three of us. My sister, my brother, and me. And we would pick like what nights of the TV where we picked the program. Friday, we all agreed. It was uh the Dukes of Hazzard at 8, The Incredible Hulk at 9, and Dallas at 10. That lineup, uh yes, all day, everything. Um, I didn't like the Knight Rider because it was terrible. I'm like, Mika, car gotta talk. For what reason? That was so stupid. It didn't jump over anything. First of all, we not gonna. This another show. You will not slander the Dukes of Hazzard minus Coen Vance because don't nobody really want to do that. No, no, I don't need counseling. I love Dukes of Hazzard. Couldn't stand Night Rider. Well, I'm not gonna say couldn't stand Night Rider. It just wasn't. It was like man, like I overlooked the bad acting. Like David Hasselhoff is a terrible actor. Terrible. Like no, that was not him. That was somebody else sing Heartbeat. Yeah, it was problematic, but yeah, I still liked it. Um, but I cannot with Night. If I'm gonna just compare it to, um, and it says here that Seinfeld was in the '80s. It came on in '89. Beauty and the Beast. I forgot about this show. Beauty and the Beast was this show, not the cartoon, but it was about this um um district attorney. She was left for dead, and she was rescued by a half man, half beast, Vincent. And she fell in love with them and they resumed romance. And it was good right up until they consummated it. I'm like, eh. Um, but of course, there were some terrible shows of the 80s. Um, Dynasty. Dynasty was a Dallas rip off. This show tried so hard to be Dallas, and it just did. Like they tried to make Jr. female and turn him into Joan Collins. It was like, who's watching this? Who's sitting down and thinking, "Yep, I don't want to watch Dallas." But let me watch this bad ripoff. No, 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 no. I did not like Dynasty. Silver Spoons, I liked, but I didn't love it. Loved Too Close for Comfort. Um, until they wrote off like the two daughters, Punky Brewster. And I forgot to talk about a show. Well, let me go with the ones I don't like first, and I'll get back to uh there was Cop Rock, the show about singing cops. Coach, I did not like. V, and if you don't remember, yes, another terrible show of the 80s. Now, Dallas was life. Falcon Crest was good. Dynasty's the one that's trash. I just couldn't with Coach. I'm like, I want to see Dick Van Dyke's brother. I want to see Dick Van Dyke. I don't want to see his brother. Like, what am I watching? I didn't think the guy that played Coach was funny at all. I just did not like Coach at all. Um, Hunter, I didn't like. Um, it's a living. Besides the TV theme song, I really didn't like it. Um, Cheers, I liked, but I kept wondering, it ain't no black people in Boston. Um, but of course, there were the animated shows of the 80s, and this is where it's gonna get complicated. Because you had shows, there were two shows in the 80s that I absolutely loved. And one of them was the Transformers. Let me tell you about the awesomeness of the Transformers cartoon. First of all, um, most of the shows you like didn't have black people in it. I'm I'm not saying I didn't like Cheers. I'm just saying I did kind of wonder in the back of my mind. I'm like, they ain't got no black. No, I liked the show. Do not get me wrong. I liked Cheers. I didn't love Cheers, but I liked it. Um, but in terms of animation, again, the one show that I absolutely there will be no defacing of the Transformers. Period. Point blank. One of the greatest cartoons of all time. Like, never ever will I say anything bad about the Transformers. Also love G.I. Joe. What I liked about G.I. Joe, at the end when they would do that little thing when they talk about what the kids know, and then one of the people in G.I. Joe's gang would say, and the kid would say, and now I know. And then one of the people in G.I. Joe would say, and knowing's half the battle. G.I. Joe. Dun, 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 dun. Loved that. Um, there was Flo, the spinoff of Alice. No. Then there was What's Happening Now. Let me tell you about the I didn't talk about Quantum Leap because I didn't appreciate how they treated that show. That really makes me mad. But I loved both of these shows. I loved Highway to Heaven and I loved Quantum Leap. But I don't think Highway to Heaven traveled back in time. I think they were in modern times. I think. But I liked both of those shows, so I'm not going to speak bad about either one. But I want to talk about the awfulness of what's happening now. What's happening now? If you never watch What's Happening, it was about three teenagers, Raj, Rerun, and Dwayne, and their little shenanigans. Of course, the show gets canceled because they aged out now, but then they brought it back. Why? Who knows why? So in this version, a mustacheless Mark Lawrence was in it. Um, sometimes Dee would be in it. The lady that was in I'm gonna get you sucker as the love interest of Keenan Ivory Wayans was in it. Raj now owned the diner, but was a writer. Ooh, y'all, this show was terrible. This show was so awfully. Like this show should be a cautionary tale of don't reboot. Reboots are bad. I just can't. Sanford, also another example of a show that I'm like, really, you really gonna do this? You really, really, really gonna do this? Um, that was with okay, so it was Red Fox, obviously, and this one was he still at the junkyard? He had a whole different love interest. Um, didn't like that one. Again, the 80s had like a bunch of cartoons I absolutely loved. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, I loved it. Thundercats, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Um, I could not stand the GoBots because I'm like, and I know the GoBots came before the Transformers, but that old Transformers ripoff, Inspector Gadget was great. The Thundercats, the Dragons, and Dungeons and Dragons was good, but I was like, is y'all ever gonna get home? The Littles was a terrible cartoon. So was and I make fun of it. The Littles was a terrible cartoon. Um, I love MacGyver, except for they just made it so unbelievable. I'm like, there's no way he could get out of that. Um, so there was a cartoon in the 80s, Turbo Team. And Turbo Teen was about this young man who, when his temper was elevated or his temperature was elevated, he turned into a car. Ladies and gentlemen, Turbo Teen. And let's not forget the 80s had one of the worst shows of all time, Cop Rock. Yep, if you ever loved musicals and cop shows, Cop Rock was the show for you. But again, the 80s had some real bangers. I mean, some shows that I was like, um, Fraggle Rock, I did not care for. Muppet Babies was good, and I never saw Pinwheel, but Fraggle Rock, I just did not like it at all. Um, I'm trying to think of some other shows of the 80s. Um, I said Webster. Oh, how did I forget? Okay, so Married with Children. I forgot Married with Children came on in the 80s. Married with Children. Small Wonder. Okay, Alf was terrible, but I still watched it. Small Wonder was terrible, but I still watched it. But Married with Children, I literally forgot that show came on in the 80s. Married with Children came on in 1987. And of course, you don't you do not have to know what that show was about. Al Bundy, who scored 4 touchdowns in one game. Yes, that Al Bundy. Um, loved, 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 loved. I loved the banter between Al and Marcy. That was just like he had something to say about her every week. It was a different chicken joke. I mean, every single week he was bringing in those different chicken jokes. Um, just loved them. But it still comes in second. And that's because there's a decade called the 1970s. And the 1970s, if the 80s had, and I forgot about this show, Theus, thank you for reminding me before I move to the 70s. Three's Company, the original show about nothing. Here's why it's good bad. It's literally Three's Company was had the exact same plot every single episode. Somebody would hear something, totally misunderstand it. John Ritter would trip over something. They would resolve it at the end. That was the plot of every single episode, and it got on my nerves. Did I watch it? Yes, I watched it. Of course, they changed the blonde. Uh, they went from Chrissy, Crystal, the other one, and Terry. I can't name all four of them, but it was four of them total. Um, Forgot all about Three's Company. Yeah, I like the show, but at the same time, I'm like, y'all couldn't come up with no other plot. Same plot every single show. I'm like, come on. Um, but again, I'm moving on. Hold on. I'm moving on to the decade that I love the best, and that's the 1970s. When you talk about the 70s, and I said the 80s were bangers, and they had all these bangers. I mean, there were some bad shows of the 80s. No, I'm sorry. There were some bad shows of the 70s, but there were so few and far between. And I'll give you examples. So first, we're going to start off with the shows that I didn't like. Okay, so I'm gonna say this. I did not like Mod. I couldn't get with it. I didn't understand it. It just wasn't funny to me. I didn't like it. I thought Mod was a big mouth, and Walter needed to grow a pair. Um, and if you don't know what Maud was a spinoff of All in the Family. Maud is Edith's cousin, and she came to take care of her when Edith was sick, and then they spun off Maud. The only thing I liked about Maud was the theme song. That was it. I just could not with this show. So we're gonna start off right at the start. I didn't like Maud at all. I couldn't deal with it. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was funny. But again, these were just my opinions. Um, I didn't like One Day at a Time. It just wasn't. It wasn't good. I'm like, how did this show stay on that long? Like, like what was they doing? I'm like, really? This show? This show? I just could not with mine. I literally couldn't. And Theus, I hate to tell you this, Three's Company is 1977. That was a show of the 70s. I just found that out. Three's Company is a show of the 70s, not the 80s. It came on in 1977. So, um, yeah, Ma ran for 6 seasons. That show stayed on from 72 to 78. Really? Really? Um, I just couldn't get with this. Um, then of course we gotta talk about the Ropers. That the Ropers was a spinoff. Uh, no, I'm getting to the 70s. The 70s had some bang, like the 80s had bangers. The 70s had like out of the park home runs. Um, so the Ropers was a spinoff of Three's Company where the owners or the landlords, Helen and Stanley Roper, managed their own apartments, and that show was terrible. Court and Three's a Crowd was also no Three's a Crowd was like in the 80s. So um I also didn't like there's gonna be a whole lot of shows that that I I'm saying I did like, but this one, it's like I like it, but at the same time I hate it. Welcome back, Carter. Like, what was the um like what? I love the theme song. Love the theme song. But I couldn't with the show itself. And the reason I could, it's like once the white guy with the afro left, I'm like, what the heck am I watching? No, let me backtrack. Once John Travolta left, what am I watching it for? Like, um, I can't. So now I'm gonna just kind of scoot over to the shows that I loved. First of all, well, man, there's one more. Eight is enough. Eight is enough. This Brady Bunch ripoff was like, what the heck? It was so boring. I'm like, oh, okay. Can I wake up now? Like, if I wanted to go to sleep, I would watch Eight is Enough. Shows that I watch, but not enough to put it on a list or not put it on a list. The Waltons. I watched the Waltons, but I didn't neither love it nor hate it. It was just like, oh, it's okay. So let's start with what I absolutely love. The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Um, the Mary Tyler Moore Show was epic. Epic. You couldn't tell me whoever wrote the Mary Tyler Moore Show, that writing crew, that show needs to be studied and looked at as like how you structure a comedy. That show was so well written and so um impactful. Mr. Chuckles Bites the Dust. Best episode of that show. So you starting off with the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Then you talk about, of course, my favorite, the Dukes of Hazzard. Um, Chips, love Chips, The Facts of Life, Different Strokes. Did I already say The Facts of Life? Happy Days came on in the 70s. Um, Vernon Shirley came on in the 70s. Benson came on in the 70s. Taxi came on in the 70s. The Jeffersons came on in the 70s. Schoolhouse Rock came on in the 70s. Sanford and Son came on in the 70s. Um, Little House on the Prairie came on in the 70s. Josie and the Pussycats came on in the 70s. Um, Mork and Mindy came on in the 70s. WKRP in Cincinnati came on in the 70s. Um, the Odd Couple. The Odd Couple came on in the 70s. There's no way you're beating these shows. The $6 Million Man came on in the 70s. Love Boat came on in the 70s. Um, Charlie's Angels came on in the 70s. Chico and the Man came on in the 70s. Are you kidding me? There's no show in the 80s that I can say, oh, well, this show was just like, I'm going to use Sanford Son because it's my favorite. And I didn't rank my top shows of the 80s. I'll do that at the end. But um, look at all the shows that came on in the 80s. Barnaby Jones came on in the 80s. The Super Friends, the cartoon came on in the 80s. I'm sorry, 70s. Barnaby Jones came on in the 70s. Super Friends cartoon came on in the 80s. You kidding me? Are you kidding me? Now, of course, there was Jabberjaw. We're not gonna talk about Jabberjaw. Uh, the Muppet Show came on in the 70s. The Muppet Show. Are you kidding me? Now, MASH was here. MASH, I couldn't just, I'm like, is this a comedy or is this a drama? It was like, oh gosh. When that show went off, I'm like, thank goodness this show is going on. But the 70s by itself, All in the Family came on in the 70s. If you look at the top shows in the 70s, there's no show in the 80s that can compare to it. There's no show um Oh my goodness, there were so many Scooby-Doo clones. There was Jabberjaw, Josie and the Pussycats, uh, the Charlie Chan gang, um, Hong Kong Fooey. Oh, dang, y'all got all these Scooby-Doo clones. Um, but I did like Jabberjaw. I did like Jabberjaw. Um, you can't do that on television. Came on in the 70s. That's one of the most iconic shows of my childhood. You can't do that on television. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? There's um Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels. Um, let's see. I said $6 million man, Hong Kong. I already said the Incredible Hulk. The Dukes of Hazzard, Incredible Hulk, Dallas. That was my lineup on Friday. Wonder Woman came on in the 70s. Are you kidding me? There's no, there is no decade to me that beats the 70s. None. Look at all of those iconic shows that I just listed off. And I rarely listed a show. I'm like, I really didn't like that, except for MASH. MASH. But besides MASH, and maybe a couple others like the Ropers. There wasn't too many shows in the 70s that I didn't like. There were some dramas, like I said, what was my Starsky and Hutch, The Rockford Files, Fantasy Island, The Streets of San Francisco. Are y'all kidding me? Man from Atlantis. Um, SWAT. Now, of course, I forgot about this one. The Bob Newhart show came on in the 70s. You're not going to get me off of this. The 70s wins. The 70s was the best decade of television by far. The 80s is close. I mean, the 90s was way worse, but the 80s is close, but it's not the 70s. Look at all the shows that I just named that were so iconic in the 70s. Um, Electric Company came on in the 70s. Um, The Land of the Lost came on in the 70s. I'm like, look at these shows. These shows were great. I mean, you look at them. I'm like, wait a minute. How you gonna step to Schoolhouse Rock? Let's see. So I didn't name my top five shows of the 80s. And this it no, the 70s wins. All of those shows that I just named that I love, they're way more than the 80s. Way more. So if I'm naming my top five shows of the 80s, I would have to go, um, I'd have to go Night Court, and this is no particular order. I'm just talking about shows of Night Court, Hill Street Blues, Saint Elsewhere, probably Growing Pains, maybe, but I know Family Ties is like the top one. Maybe. The 70s is going to be harder because, like I said, if the 80s had bangers, and I agree, they had bangers, no doubt about it. The 80s had some bangers, but the 70s had some home run hits. So I'm going to say if I'm talking about the 70s, I got to go number one, All in the Family. There's no doubt about it. All in the Family was the best show of the 70s. Then number two, was, and I probably go 10 on this one because, like I said, there's way more shows in the 70s I like than versus the 80s. But All in the Family, number one, no doubt about it. Number two, Sanford and Son. Just a funny, well written show. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Number three, probably a show I didn't talk about, Good Times, the first three seasons. You couldn't get any better than Good Times. I'm like, yes. Um, The Jeffersons, first five seasons. And then lastly, this is where that fifth one, because I want to say the Mary Tyler Moore show, but I'm probably going to pick the Bob Newhart show because I liked it just about that much. Like, is that much better? Like, that much better. Yeah, that was hard. Like, the 70s was hard. Um, so those are my um picks. Again, I said that the number one decade for me is the 70s. I'm still looking at this list and I'm like, I can't see a show that I'm like, that show was terrible. Um, yeah, I gotta go with Newhart, the Bob Newhart show over the Mary Tyler show, but Mary Tyler Moore show, but it's real close. It's real close. In terms of cartoons, boy, that's a hard one because you had Josie and the Pussycats, you had Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels. Um, but I didn't do cartoons for the other one, so I'm not gonna do them for this one. But that's my list, everybody. I know everybody says the 80s, but y'all, the 70s, these are home runs. Home runs. Especially Taxi. Taxi was a show. I didn't like it um as much as a child. And then when I watch it as an adult, I'm like, oh, that's what I was missing. Um, so those are my picks. So I'm declaring that the 1970s was the best decade for television. I can't see any other decade beating it. The 80s is a really, 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 really close second, and then the 90s, it just like after the 80s, it just fell off. Um, so that is it. So didn't think I would go an hour and 13 minutes on this, but I did. We'll give this the last word. Too many cartoons to ever pick a best one. Yeah, it is. But I did pick the Transformers as the best of the 80s. I clearly said that. 90s, I was like a teen, like in pre adulthood. So I'm like, I really wasn't watching cartoons in the 90s. Um, but I definitely Transformers 80s and G.I. Joe. Uh, 70s is a little bit harder because again, there were so many, it's gonna be hard for me to pick just one. Um, So I thank you all for watching, tuning in for me to declare that the 70s were the best decade for television shows. Too many home run hitters for me to say, it's just too many. Just too many shows for me to say, oh, that really wasn't that great. No, they had some really good shows in the 70s. Really good. Um, thank you all for watching. Remember to but I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. The 70 clearly wins. If I'm just talking about the shows I like versus the shows I did, I think I only picked like maybe three in the 70s that I didn't like. That was MASH, Mod, and maybe the Ropers. Those are the three I named. Everything else I was like, love this show, like this show. 80s, I had a whole lot to pick. Small Wonder, Cop Rock. I didn't even go over the Charmings. Like the 80s had, oh, and Down to Earth And no, so no, I'm correct. The 70s had the best of television and will continue to have a lasting impact. But before we wrap up, I do invite you to like this page, like, comment, share, subscribe, like, comment, share, subscribe, like, comment, share, subscribe, like, comment, share, subscribe. Remember, I do go live tomorrow for the Sunday show. I got a humdinger for you all tomorrow. Tune in at 7 o'clock p.m. Um, because I've got a lot to talk about. We may run over in our time because we have so much to talk about, but just tune in tomorrow. Um, Remember to share this episode with your friends. If you watch this after it broadcast, just put your opinions in the comment section. I greatly appreciate it. Help me to get to 500 subscribers. Thank you all for watching and have a fantastic evening. Goodbye.